What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Jose Show. Happy Monday. It is February 9th, a day after the Super Bowl. Man, I still can't get over last night's Super Bowl because last night's Super Bowl, not only was it very cool just having to beat out the Patriots, but also it was very cool having to see the halftime show with Bad Bunny, Lady Gaga, and Ricky Martin. They really killed it, especially Lady Gaga, the way she was dancing with that dress of hers, and she was singing in Spanish, and she was really getting into the mood and into the vibe with Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny was, continuing it off with his own music and with his own singing in Spanish, which, by the way, got to rub it in a lot of people's faces, especially the president of the United States' face, which, by the way, this guy, Donald J. Trump, got to say a lot of horrendous things about the halftime show, which, by the way, I am not surprised about, saying that it is a slap in the face to America and that it doesn't represent America nor the success of America and a bunch of other things he said. And my goodness, I have to say that, what, President Donald J. Trump, I think that Bad Bunny really killed it at last night's halftime show, along with Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin, because he really was spreading out the culture, the embracement of the Latino community, and he was actually putting everybody in their feet with all of the music that he was singing that was so upbeat that even Cardi B and Karol G were even dancing to all of that, which, by the way, I got to see all of that. And let's also remember that the music of Bad Bunny's was so good that I think that even broke ratings records for the most watched halftime show in Super Bowl history. I believe that it's rumored that he is at 142 million or over 142 million for his ratings for the halftime show, which, by the way, gets to really be explosive, amazing, okay? Because honestly, I have never seen that many numbers in my life for a halftime show. And it definitely beats out Kendrick Lamar for being the most watched halftime show in history, and also Michael Jackson, let's remember. And what I'm also noticing is just how Bad Bunny was so confident out there. He really wasn't giving a damn on what people were saying about him or what people were going to say about him. And what I noticed is that it was all peace. It was all calm. I didn't hear any ice going into the freaking game. I didn't hear any violence. I didn't hear anything bad, and I'm glad, because the whole entire point of the halftime show and the whole entire point of the whole entire Super Bowl was to have a really good time and to enjoy. It wasn't about getting worried and about getting scared about what was going to happen and so forth. And what I'm noticing is that Bad Bunny, he was like basically acting like he was in one of his concerts because of how confident he was. And I'm glad. And it really made me feel so good that for the first time ever, the halftime show was all in Spanish by a Spanish singing singer that really was embracing, his music in Spanish, and that was, out there spreading out the beautiful reggae vibes, and he was spreading out, the meaning of what it's like to be a Hispanic and the meaning of being happy to even be one of the few Hispanics out there to be in the Super Bowl halftime show. Okay, like, what an amazement is that, ladies and gentlemen? And it was already rumored, by the way, that Cardi B was going to be the one performing with Bad Bunny, but then later on, like last minute, I noticed that Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin were the ones rumored to be with Bad Bunny to be the performers. And I was like, you know what? I can definitely imagine Lady Gaga being the performer with Bad Bunny, because Lady Gaga really has that beat, even though she is white, of course, and she's not Latina, to be, having those reggae vibes with Bad Bunny. But yeah, I can imagine that she will definitely have the vibes with Bad Bunny. Okay, and definitely Ricky Martin, because Ricky Martin, of course, he is Puerto Rican. And then I was like, okay, I think this might be a mix too of maybe her music with his music. And then when I saw, I was just amazed that Lady Gaga, like I said, was embracing the Latino-ness by wearing that beautiful dress and dancing and singing in Spanish and getting all over Bad Bunny, and making it like a huge beautiful way of celebrating not just the Latino community but also celebrating the fact that in life it's too short to be sad, it's too short to be miserable. So yeah, that is definitely what that was about. And I think that for the first time ever, in my opinion, I felt like we were actually seeing inclusivity, diversity, and equity by seeing this performance at the halftime show, because of how good and how outstanding and how highlighting it was having to see that Latino music was being spread all over the halftime show, especially by the one and only Bad Bunny. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was definitely a night to remember. I think it was a historic night because of that. And I think that from now on, the halftime show has to continue to be historical by bringing in more and more people of color. I really think so, in order to really show the inclusivity, the equity, and definitely the diversity of it all. So, anyways, another thing that really stood out to me last night, just having to see just how everyone was up in their feet, and they really were enjoying the music like if they were in a concert, and just seeing how everyone was out there like, okay, well, you know what, even though I don't understand Spanish, I'm still going to enjoy all of this, I'm still going to dance to all of this. Okay, so anyways, there is nothing that the President of the United States can do, by the way, since he was already bashing the Super Bowl halftime show last night. So I think that with all of that being said, the only thing that this stupid president of ours could do is just deal with the fact that we as Latinos, we have success, we have a lot of success, and we are loved, and also we are being included in huge events like this, either he likes it or not. And another thing that this guy has to be dealing with is that, hey, at the end of the day, Bad Bunny is huge, and there is nothing that Trump can do. Okay, so with all of that being said, I know that Bad Bunny is already on top of the Spotify charts. He's already on top of the Apple Music charts, and he's going to be all over the Billboard charts really soon because of how much of an impact his music has been making, because of the halftime show that, by the way, is already breaking ratings records, which is amazing. So anyways, I think that up next, maybe we might see, I don't know, maybe J Balvin be the one in the halftime show. We might end up seeing, I don't know, Nicki Jam maybe. I don't know. But this definitely was amazing. And onto the game itself. So I think that the Seahawks beating out the Patriots, to me, was a huge predicament, because I have noticed that the Seahawks were definitely in their game last night. They were pushing it. They were definitely focused. They were definitely out there making sure that they were not going to get lost, because man, I think that these people, I believe, were coached the same way that the Chiefs were coached last year and the year before, even though unfortunately the Chiefs lost last year. But still, they were coached because of how intense the game was with them against the Patriots, and because of how they were out there making sure that they were not even going to, get hit by a ball or even get, tackled in a way. But of course, we got to see some tackling. Of course, we got to see some ball hitting, of course, because at the end of the day, it is, a Super Bowl game. But let's remember that we really got to see the focus of it all. And that was definitely important at the end of the day, which is what led the Seahawks to beat out the Patriots. I really feel that this is definitely going to be amazing too, by the way, just having to see that, the Seahawks got to make their return to the Super Bowl, I believe, and for the first time in several years, because throughout the past several years, we've been seeing the Chiefs, and we would see other players, and we wouldn't see the Seahawks. I believe that the last time I heard of the Seahawks in the Super Bowl game. I believe it was way back in like 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Way back when I was in high school. And I was like, damn, this is definitely something. For the first time in like 11 years, I hear that the Seahawks are back in the Super Bowl game. I mean, I could be mistaken. Maybe the Seahawks might have been in other Super Bowl games, but that is like the last time that I heard of the Seahawks being in a Super Bowl game. And now it's like, I believe that the Seahawks were definitely stepping up their game since, you know, the pregame days this past year into getting into the Super Bowl, which is the reason to why they led themselves into the Super Bowl in the first place, which, by the way, it led them to now win the Super Bowl, which is definitely amazing. So anyways, congratulations to them for winning the big game last night. I think that this is definitely for the Bucks, and man, I think the coach itself is really proud of all of these players that got to be winning in the Super Bowl. All right, so anyways, on to the next topic. So this past Saturday, I got to meet someone very special. I got to meet the one and only pop star Nick Jonas over in Studio City, where he was handprinting his own hand on some posters of his album, which is called Sunday Best. And when I got to meet him, ladies and gentlemen, I was so amazed and I was so happy because, ladies and gentlemen, I noticed how sweet he was. I noticed how kind he was and loving he was. And I literally felt like I was talking to a god, okay, because of how great he was. And the moment he saw me and he was smiling at me and I was smiling at him, I already even felt the connection in the first place. I told him how I felt about him, who I was, and the fact that I have a podcast and so forth. And he was definitely into that. That he was all like, oh, nice, that's cool. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. And so forth. And I felt like we definitely were even turning into friends, how we were conversating with one another. And, you know, unfortunately, we didn't have the enough time to be talking to each other because we were in a line because there was so many people at that event getting their handprints from Nick Jonas himself. But if I would have had more time to talk to Nick Jonas, I would tell him more about this podcast. I would tell him more about me and how I felt about him and how I feel about him. And definitely, what I would have even done is I would have even taken a photo with him as well, because unfortunately they weren't allowing photos in that event, which to me was so dumb. Oh my Lord. But anyways, I still got, you know, a poster with his handprint on it and a vinyl, by the way, from his new album, Sunday Best. And by the way, he even told me that he already recognized me from this podcast because he told me that he's seen my post on Instagram, and I was so amazed. I was like, oh my God. I was so amazed. I was so shocked because never did I expect that he would actually acknowledge me from social media. I thought that he would just ignore all of the posts that I would tag him in, and I would you know, end up looking like this idiot after all that would just be desperate for the attention and not get any attention in return. But no, he actually has seen my posts. Oh my God, I really was happy. He made my day the moment that he told me that he saw my posts and that he recognizes me. And also the fact that he was smiling at me and that he was, you know, being very kind towards me. So anyways, I will forever cherish that moment in my heart that I got to meet the one and only Nick Jonas. And I'll definitely remember that. And I'll definitely, you know, find a way to get in contact with him one way or the other on social media, and also have him on this podcast, because trust me, this guy is definitely worth to have a conversation with on this podcast because of how much of a gentleman he is and how much of a beautiful heart he has, that I think that me and him will definitely click once I have them on this podcast. And trust me, it'll definitely definitely be a really good conversation that will definitely be for the books. So Nick Jonas, if you're watching this, please be on my podcast eventually. I would love to have you on here. You are amazing. You are my idol. You are my role model. You are everything to me. Okay. Oh my God. But anyways, that was an amazing day for me. Saturday, February 7th. All right. On to the next topic. So the search for Savannah Guthrie's missing mother took another dramatic turn late Saturday night when investigators returned to the Arizona home of the Today anchor's sister. So authorities were inside Annie Guthrie's residence for several hours, photographing multiple rooms until about 10:30 p.m. local time. And apparently, reporters were kept at a distance as agents worked with one officer seen carrying a silver briefcase into the home, raising questions about what evidence, if any, was collected. Okay, so apparently outside Annie's home, News Nation correspondent Brian Enton documented camera flashes inside multiple rooms while several law enforcement vehicles waited nearby. So the renewed search comes as the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie stretches into its second week. Annie and her husband, Tommaso Cioni, were the last people to see Nancy after having dinner with her on January 31st. Just hours before she vanished, Annie's home was also searched earlier this week. Okay, so authorities have not explained why they returned late Saturday. On Friday, a vehicle was towed from Nancy's garage and a camera was removed from her house. So TMZ and other news outlets received an alleged ransom note earlier this week that contained two deadlines. The first deadline was Thursday at 5 p.m., which changed the alleged abductor's demands. The second deadline is Monday, February 9, which is today. Okay, so earlier Saturday, Savannah appeared alongside Annie and their brother Cameron in a video posted to social media directly addressing Nancy's alleged abductors. In the clip, the siblings said they had received your message and agreed to pay the ransom demands. All right, so anyways, Savannah did not share details about the communication or the amount requested. The family had previously asked for proof of life. Okay, so on Friday, Harvey Levin broke down how far Nancy may have been taken, showing a geographic area where her abductors may be holding her based on clues in the alleged ransom note that TMZ received. Okay, so anyways, this is insanity. So I feel so sad that this is still going on here. And I am hoping and I am praying that the Guthrie family gets to find Nancy Guthrie safe and sound, and that Nancy Guthrie especially is still alive. This is really devastating to me, just having to hear that this woman is with a stranger that could be strangling her, that can be torturing her, that can be doing so many other horrible things to her. And unfortunately, to this day, it's already been 2 weeks, I believe, since she first was found missing. And, at this point, I think that what's going to end up happening is that, the police is going to have to try even harder and say, really making sure that they get to be finding Nancy Guthrie, because, it's already been 2 weeks. And at this point, it's already ridiculous that there's still no signs of her at this point. And it's only the signs from the stupid, horrible person that is over here giving out these ransom notes and giving out these deadlines, already getting a lot of us scared, including the Guthrie family. And they are not even saying if Nancy Guthrie is perfectly fine or anything else. Nothing. And what's really saddening to me is that it's like these people are really these kind of people that feel like they have the authority and they feel like they have the strength to be doing all of these horrible things, especially to old people like Nancy Guthrie, for example, that they feel like they are on top of the world. But guess what? These people, eventually, they're going to rot in prison for kidnapping this woman. They're going to definitely rot in prison, because at the end of the day, there is going to be a really happy ending here where hopefully, I'm sure Nancy Guthrie is going to be found safe and sound. The cops are going to find the people that are behind all of this, arrest them, and have them in prison for a very long time, or hopefully for a life sentence, because hopefully, in my opinion, I'm sure that what's going to end up happening is that there is going to be some type of way, maybe where the cops are going to know exactly where Nancy Guthrie is at. Maybe the stupid abductors are going to tell the cops or the family where Nancy Guthrie is at. And then from there, there's going to be a way where they're going to go all the way to where Nancy Guthrie's at. And then they're going to capture the abductors one way or the other, even if they're hiding or if they're not hiding in that location. And then hopefully from there, they'll get arrested. Or, maybe what could end up happening is that hopefully, in my opinion, is that Nancy Guthrie will find a way to escape from where she's at. And she'll for sure reunite with the family. But, unfortunately, when you are getting kidnapped, it is very hard for you to be escaping because, unfortunately, the abductors, they are looking out for you. They are looking out to make sure that you are not escaping. So that way they can have you in your hands. That is unfortunate. So anyways, I really pray for Savannah Guthrie. I pray for Annie Guthrie. I pray for Nancy Guthrie, especially that she gets to be found safe and sound. Lord, please make it possible that Nancy Guthrie is fine, that she is safe, that she is alive, and that she gets to be reuniting with her family really soon. Really, I beg you, Lord Jesus Christ. I beg you, Lord Jesus Christ, that Nancy Guthrie also gets to be, psychologically well, especially because all of this is already traumatizing. All of this is definitely horrendous. And also, I pray to you, Lord Jesus Christ, that the family of Savannah Guthrie, especially Nancy Guthrie and Annie Guthrie, gets to be finding a lot of psychiatric and psychological help off of all of this, since I'm pretty sure that Savannah Guthrie and Nancy Guthrie and Annie Guthrie and the rest of the Guthrie family isn't doing well right now psychologically, just having to hear about all of this. And it's very harming, especially to me, and I'm not even the family member, okay? Because it really just torments me just having to hear stuff like this. And you know what? Since Savannah Guthrie, I believe, is already out of the Today Show right now temporarily because of the whole horrendous situation that's going on with her mother, Nancy Guthrie, Hoda Kotb is filling in for her. And Hoda Kotb is filling in for her because Hoda Kotb wants to be there for Savannah Guthrie right now in these tough times that she is going through. And she even said, well, you know what? That's what friends are for. I'm definitely going to be here for her. I'm going to pray for her. And I'm going to really make sure that everything turns out well for Savannah Guthrie and these times that she is going through. So I really am happy for Hoda that she's there for Savannah. Okay, and let's remember that Hoda Kotb, she's been out of the Today Show for like the past year and a half now because I believe that she decided to retire, I believe, from the Today Show. And it's completely understandable. But anyways, my goodness, this is very scary. And this is definitely like a horror film to me, just having to hear all of this. Oh my God, I pray and I pray that everything gets to turn out well. Now, on to the next topic. Okay, so DJ Young Slade, Little John's son, has died, his father announced in a statement on Friday. So Little John tells TMZ, I am extremely heartbroken for the tragic loss of our son, Nathan Smith, his mother, Nicole Smith, and I are devastated. Nathan was the kindest human being you would ever meet. He was immensely caring, thoughtful, polite, passionate, and warm-hearted. He loved his family and the friends in his life to the fullest. So John said he was an amazingly talented young man, a music producer, an artist, an engineer, and graduate of NYU. We loved Nathan with all of our hearts and are incredibly proud of him. He was loved and appreciated, and our last times together, we were comforted in knowing that we expressed that very sentiment to him. John thanked the Milton Police Department for their help searching for his son. Nathan was reported missing on Tuesday this week. Earlier today, searchers pulled a body from a pond in the area. Police said there was no indication of foul play. Milton, Georgia is about 30 miles north of Atlanta. And by the way, Nathan Smith was only 27 years old. Okay, so something is telling me here that this guy was abducted. And then his dead body was, once he was killed and abducted, then his dead body ended up getting into a pond. Yeah, this is not going to stop. This is going to continue on who the responsible people are for all of this, because this is horrendous. Okay. I feel like something was going on here behind this case that led to Nathan Smith to end up getting shot or end up getting killed in whatever other way, and then end up getting his body sent all the way to a pond or thrown all the way to a pond, and also get abducted, like I said, because unfortunately, when there are people that are just looking out for you when you're saying things, when you're doing things, or a bunch of other things, they really want to just seek on towards you, and they want to see what they could do to you and a bunch of other things. And that's what is really smelling like to me. That's what it's really suspicious to me, that this is going on and that this went on with Nathan Smith. And he was only 27 years old, by the way, an age where he had a whole entire life ahead of him. And Nathan, by the way, he was loved by his parents, little John, and by Nicole Smith, who happened to be the mother. And they were, basically very caring, and they were very looking out for him and a bunch of other things. And, the fact that they were saying a lot of good things about this guy, Nathan Smith, was already coming to show that Nathan Smith really had a really, beautiful thing about him before he ended up passing away or ended up getting killed. And, my heart really goes out to this family, because now it's this very devastating feeling just having to know that their own son is gone from this planet. And now they are not even knowing what to do at this point, but to just cry and get devastated and get heartbroken. And it's very even more devastating the way that he ended up getting gone from this world. I mean, the fact that he was probably abducted and then killed, and then his body was thrown all the way to a pond, and then them and the authorities ended up finding the body in a pond, was already coming to show that, something very horrible happened into this guy before all of this happened. And then it come to show that, his body was already in danger of getting, I don't know, eaten by the animals or eaten by whoever. And then, it was already, I don't know, decomposing in that pond, and it was already, drowning in that pond probably, and so forth. And, it's very scary. It's very scary. So anyways, this is very heartbroken. This is really heartbroken to me. And my heart and prayers go out to little John and to Nicole Smith. And you know what? I really hope that Nathan's cause and manner of death are currently, cause and manner of death get to be found really soon. That would be amazing, because I really want to know exactly what happened. But I'm already thinking here that maybe an abduction happened, like I said, and then he got killed by someone, and then they ended up throwing his body to a pond. That's just what I'm getting fishy of here. I don't know. But anyways, rest in peace. But that is it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of The Jose Show. Till next time, and peace.